I grew up in the most loving household. 2 parents who are best friends with a spark. We're going for their 50th wedding anniversary to Switzerland. They're bringing the whole family in July. I thought it was normal. It should be. I grew up with a businessman dad and a mom who's a flutist, so the creative side and the efficiency side. But the cool thing was, while Dad was on a plane, Mom was at home. And her work, she was able to practice in the next room. And I remember studying and not being able to recall something in the classroom. I'd go back and I'd play over a piece that my mom had rehearsed, and I'd remember the answer. I remember any time I had a question, I would come to my mom, and immediately she'd stop the flute. And she would answer, "Mom, can you just please check these chocolate chip cookies because I'm just not sure they're done." Never once did she say, "Pamela, I'm practicing." Never once. I thought it was normal. We went on a family vacation when I was 12 in Mexico. It was normal. We were having a wonderful time as a family. I had my older sister. We're exploring Mexico. And my dad and I are in this marketplace. And all I can think of is I can see the sombreros being sold and the silver and these bracelets and these jewelry, these little candies and packages, and it's so colorful. And there's all this music, and you can just feel the hot air, and it's just all this excitement and this buzz. And then my dad and I were walking down, and we start walking down to the side around the marketplace, and we turn down this cul-de-sac, and I look, and I just see all these begging, starving, maimed children, some with parents, some without, all just screaming for money. Sombreros and silver and all this exciting music, and boom, just absolute poverty. And I remember looking at my dad, and I said, "How could you not have told me this?" And he looked down at me and he said, "Honey, you're 12. But at that point, it was too late. The word unacceptable had come across my mind. It didn't matter how old I was. Unacceptable, big, bold letters. And at the age of 12, changed my entire life. Things were not normal in this world, and I couldn't live without other people experiencing the love that I experienced. I grew up in Menlo Park. I immediately started spending half my time in East Palo Alto. I passed out food. I worked in soup kitchens. I translated with horrible, horrible Spanish. And to this day, I don't even know if I sent them to the right places. I worked on TAMF payments, which were the time where that's what AFDC is. I worked on everything I could, and I volunteered and volunteered. And I'll tell you, it was not popular. When I was in high school, I won the volunteer award, and I don't think anyone else wanted it. But it was who I was. Even my grandmother on my mom's side said, "Wally, you better get her to stop doing that. That's not appropriate." But now we know volunteering is just, it's what you do. But for me, it was taking a different pathway. And from that, I started volunteering in every single way I could. I'm causeless. I don't have a cause. I just want people to experience the love and choice that I had. So I went to Duke. I saw a need. Sign language wasn't being taught. I went to Gallaudet. I learned sign language and came back and taught it there. When I could, I started to travel across the world. I read on page 37 about the earthquake in El Salvador. I got on a plane to get there. They had no groups there, and I found a man, and we drove around in a truck, and we slept in the truck, and we went and we delivered outdated food to people who needed food in the most remote places where the World Food Program wouldn't go. So we drove up into these mountains where the volcanic fluid was streaming down into the water, and churches were toppled, and people were under tarps for homes, and delivered this food, and I lived for that. But it wasn't enough. I read about the victims of Pol Pot's regime. I went and I served the people who had been maimed by the mines, by all the atrocities there, and helped teach them skills with computers, things that they could do even if they were handicapped. Microfinance in India, sustainable farms in Guatemala, Mexico serving children, Who didn't have birthday parties and putting on birthday parties for them? I'm causeless. And I had to make a decision. I'm not as courageous as the first speaker. I didn't want to do Peace Corps. And I'll tell you why. You probably think I'm really courageous and I thought I'd be lonely. I'm not going to go. I can't do it. I don't have that strength. So, what do I do? Well, I've graduated from Duke. I'm cum laude. I've graduated from Duke. All my friends at that time, doctor, lawyer, business. What's for me? What do I do with this? I can't be a full-time volunteer. So I go into sales. I don't believe in the product. I leave. I'm out of work for a year trying to find things. Very, very tough economic time in a recession. I work as an executive assistant for a guy who says that you don't even deserve to work for me because you don't have any experience, so I won't pay you. I worked anyways. I made money being a step aerobics instructor. I taught alcoholics on Skid Row. I did everything I could to make it all work. I went and worked as a waitress, and you think I'm really courageous? I got fired because my hand shook. There are a lot of things I couldn't do right. Finally got a job in PR. Didn't like that because I got the award at the company for stuffing the most press kits in an hour. Not so fun. Okay. Moved on to another, went into broadcast journalism. And the director sat down with me at 4 in the morning and said, "You'll never make it, Pamela. You want to cover stories about deaf people. You want to cover stories about people who've made it from poverty. That's not what we cover. We cover eye candy." And here I am, and I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, I'm so blocked. All my Duke friends are popular and successful, and I've left job after job after job. I started a business. It didn't get off the ground. At that point, I got on my knees. And I prayed to God, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried. And my roommate was there with me, and I said, "Please use me, God. Please use me." That roommate is now my COO. People are in your life for a reason. She saw my passion for this, and I was lucky because at that time, the web came. And I don't know if you remember this. For those of you early on the web, it was a gopher. You wanted to get information, this gopher went and got up and got the information and came back down. I was like, wow. And now we're like, it takes too long. No, it doesn't. It took long then. So then, that confluence of the web, and then this idea of scalability. Oh, I don't have to go travel to all these countries. I can get millions of people involved. Germinated with my volunteering. Volunteer Match. Co-founded Volunteer Match in 2006. What happened? I went through my midlife crisis early. Go through your midlife crisis early because you get on the pathway early about where you want to go. It was really painful. However, my journey wasn't over. I was about international. I wanted to do international, and Volunteer Match was domestic. I had to leave something I loved. I had to leave a marriage I loved. I love Volunteer Match. And I left it to start UniversalGiving, which helps people donate money and volunteer in 100 countries across the world, helping people give of their money, give of their time, give of their hearts, so that they can give to the best places out there. Because when I was abroad, I saw stories of people who were doing amazing work, and I also saw incredible fraud. So I had to bring it together. And that was that whole creative side of my mom. And then the business side of my dad is, how do you make money doing that even though you're a nonprofit? So we work with companies, helping them with their corporate social responsibility. And they pay us to come in and help Cisco scale to 40 countries across the world and help vet the nonprofits, and they pay us to do it. That's how we can give you 100% on our site. I'm never going to take a cut in the donation because 100% of me wants you to be able to give and volunteer. So we can create a world where giving and volunteering are a natural part of everyday life. My view is if you've got money to pay to text, then you've got $5 to donate. We're going to make it normal to give and volunteer.